The final boss is back. It's go time. Season 3 is here. Are you tuning in? Every Sunday is Sitting Down Sundays with the final boss. Get ready for an inspiring journey as we dive deep into the transformation from the nation's capital to the entertainment capital of the world. This is the conversation that will ignite your dreams and fuel your ambitions. What you'll experience: game-changing insights from industry leaders, real talk about making impossible dreams possible, the blueprint for leveling up your life, motivation that hits different. This isn't just another podcast episode. This is your wake-up call to greatness. Don't just listen, absorb, don't just hear. Transform, don't just dream, execute. Drop a like in the comments if you're ready to level up with us.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. The Final Boss Podcast, Sunday night edition of the Final Boss Podcast. This is Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss. And listen, I have a great show for you tonight. But before we get into that show, man, let's get into the admin notes, right? Let's get into the admin notes because we got a show and it might go over. So I want to make sure that I get all the information that is necessary to get out there, man, to the people, because we have this great, amazing show. We're going with episode number 168 on our way to 200. Yes, man, we're on our way to episode number 200, and this is 168. Look, make sure to each and every last single one of you out there, please continue to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. I say it again. Like, share, subscribe. All of the Final Boss episodes, no matter where you see us, no matter where we are. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitch. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Kick. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. And for all your listening pleasures, go watch us on Spotify, or go listen to us rather on Spotify. We're on Spotify as well, man. So had to get that out the way. Look, if you haven't seen our website yet, go check out our website, man. Our website is www.thefinalbosspodcast.com. Again, that is www.thefinalbosspodcast.com. You can watch each and every last single episode. Go all the way back to the beginning to catch you up right now. 168 hours worth of content. 168 hours worth of content. Make sure you go check that out. If you haven't already, go check out our website. Yeah. Check out the website, man. If you want to shoot us an email, you can shoot us an email at info@thefinalbosspodcast. Again, that's info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. Shoot us an email, man. Continue to like, share, subscribe, and drop comments. Drop comments when you can on whatever platform you are watching us and seeing us from. So let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. Tonight's episode, man. I hope everyone's having a great and amazing weekend. To my smarts, to my motivators, to my warriors, to my final bosses, thank you for your support. Please continue to keep the movement moving, right? Keep the movement moving. Keep the movement moving, man, right? And I was gonna wait for a few people to get here. It looks like everyone's watching the football game, but hey, there's somebody right there. What's up, C Roy? I see you from 202 DMV DC, baby. Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you. So now we got the admin notes out the way. Let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. and it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, right? And you're watching Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss, right? I'm your host, the architect of insight, the one and only, the architect of insight, right? The final boss. And before we get into tonight's content, man, I need you to do something for me. I need you right now. I need you right now, right? I need you to take out your phone, right? Take out your phone, right? Go ahead and do that, right? Open your social media feed. Open your social media feed, right? Scroll for 30 seconds. Just scroll, doom scroll for 30 seconds. That's it. Scroll for about 30 seconds, right? Now you got that out the way. You can stop scrolling now. Question: how many tragedies did you pass in those 30 seconds? How many disasters did you witness or see? How many crises did you come across? How many images of suffering, headlines of horror, and breaking news of breaking people, right? Now, ask yourself this question, right? Ask yourself this question. What are you supposed to do with all that information, of all that suffering, crisis, right? What are you supposed to do with it? Well, here's the uncontrollable truth. Here's the uncontrollable and uncomfortable truth we're confronting tonight. You've just participated in something I call tragedy tourism. You took a guided tour through human suffering, and it was curated and delivered by an algorithm that knows exactly which emotional buttons to push. You felt something, whether it be anger, sadness, fear, helplessness. And then what? Then what are you supposed to do? You kept scrolling. It's not because you're a bad person. You're not heartless. You're not indifferent. You're not being you're not indifferent. You're being systematically conditioned, right? Systematically conditioned. Conditioned to consume suffering as content. Conditioned to mistake awareness for action. Conditioned to spend your emotional currency on crises you can't impact while neglecting whatever you're trying to build. It's stealing your attention. And here's what makes this particular thing very, very dangerous, right? Because your compassion is being weaponized, right? And it's being weaponized against you. So tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the machinery that turns tragedy into spectacle, conscious citizens into passive consumers, and powerful potential into a paralyzed panic. You wonder why so many of you guys are crashing out? Why so many of you are suffering from panic attacks, right? Well, this episode right here, episode number 168, Tragedy Tourism, Distract, Divide, and Conquer. We're about to talk about the most sophisticated psychological operation being run against you daily, right? Not in some conspiracy theory basement, but in broad daylight through the device in your pocket with your full, unequivocal participation. This isn't about becoming heartless. This is about recognizing when your heart is being manipulated to keep your mind distracted and your hands idle, right? And if you're ready for some uncomfortable truth, stay with me. Stay with me. Yeah, you stay with me. We just getting started. Stay with me. Stay with me. If you want to stay uncomfortable, this isn't the show for you, right? This isn't the show for you. But for those of you who are here and who are willing to endure and ready to endure, then guess what? Welcome to Sitting Down Sundays with the one and only, the final boss, and that is I, right? That is I. And before we get right into it, man, look, I appreciate each and every last single one of you for tuning in 5 times a week. Sundays with Sitting Down, Mondays with Motivation Mondays, Tuesdays with Tech Tuesdays with my SME, the one and only the Sensei, and Wednesdays with Merger Wednesdays, where we're converging on what it means to be humankind and AI kind and how we are bridging the gap between the two, right? And on Thursdays for our special guest Thursday. I'm sorry, special guest Thursday, right? Now, we got that out the way, right? We got that out of the way. Now, let's get into it. Final bosses, what's good? Smarts, what's good? Motivators and warriors, what's good? Welcome, right? Welcome, everyone. Thank you. This is for critical thinkers, empire builders, the students of warfare, both kinetic and cognitive. And for those of you who are new to Sitting Down Sundays, this is where we slow down to speed up while the world is being reactive to chaos. We're in strategic contemplation. While others are scrolling, we're studying. While masses are being moved like chess pieces, we're learning to become chess masters, right? And tonight's conversation is one that I've been preparing for the last couple of weeks. And I have to tell you honestly, right? Honestly, in full transparency, I've been preparing for this very moment my entire adult life, right? From 23 years in the federal service, multiple combat deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq, being present at the Pentagon on 9/11, being a branch chief for the Department of Defense, being the CEO of Saturn Digital Networks Development Corp. And the Final Boss Podcast LLC, and numerous of other businesses, right? This information is pertinent because I want to let you know I've seen real tragedy. I've responded to actual crisis. I've operated in environments where information warfare isn't theory, it's operational reality. And I can tell you, hold on. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sound went out. One of those things, right? One of those things. Okay. And I can tell you with absolute certainty what's happening to your mind through your phone every single day is more sophisticated than anything we've ever faced in whatever combat theater, operation, or crisis that I've been involved in, right? Right. The battlefield has moved. The weapon system have evolved. The weapon systems, again, man, listen to what I just said. The weapon systems have evolved, right? And most people don't even realize they're combatants. But tonight, we're going to examine the connection of three connected realities. Yes, three. One, right? How constant exposure to tragedy creates measurable psychological changes that benefit existing power structures. And number two, the specific mechanics of the distract, the divide, and the conquer. It's a framework, right? And it's a framework that's being deployed against you and your attention, your energy, and your agency, right? And number three, the counterintelligence protocols you need to implement to protect your cognitive responses and reclaim your strategic capacity, right? This episode is structured, as always, into multiple segments. And I have your attention for the next hour. So stay seated. Get you a pen, write you some notes, because you're going to need that. And look, if you haven't, go get Go Time. Go get Go Time. All aboard the Fired Up train. This is your motivation manuscript workbook. That's what this is, right? Well, it's not a manuscript anymore, but it sounds cool. Go get Go Time. The All Aboard the Fired Up train. This is your motivation workbook. Go grab it, man. I'm telling you, wherever books are sold, it's the one with the train on it, with the blue flames. All for metaphors purposes, right? And if you study symbols, there's a lot of symbology in here, right? Go check it out. It's the one with the blue train with the blue flames, right? So here's what I need from you. I need you to put your phone down, right? Unless you're watching this on your phone, right? But I need your undivided attention. Yes, you. Yeah, undivided attention. Tell whoever needs to know that for the next hour or so, you're unavailable, right? Because this conversation requires your full attention because the forces trying to capture your attention are operating at full strength 24/7, 365, and you aren't ready. You aren't ready. So let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it and let's get down to the truth of the matter, right? And I'm going to start by defining our terms with expert precision, right? Expert precision. Because not only am I a sharpshooter, right? I'm a sniper. I'm giving you the information as a sniper, right? Because words matter, language matters. And with that, you have an understanding of clarity because clarity is power, right? Now, if you never heard the term tragedy terrorism, make sure you write that down, right? Because tragedy terrorism is the systematic commodification of human suffering into consumable media content designed to trigger emotional response without enabling meaningful action, right? It's the transformation of genuine crisis into entertainment, outrage, and engagement metrics, right? But let's go deeper. Let me give you the full operational definition of tragedy tourism. Tragedy tourism is a psychological warfare mechanism that weaponizes empathy. It exploits moral concern and converts human compassion into attention currency that can be harvested, measured, and monetized by platform algorithms and content distributors. It operates on several levels simultaneously, right? And you know we're going to talk about it, the level. We're going to talk about the levels. Emotional damage, right? Level 1 is the individual. It exhausts your emotional resources. It depletes your decision-making capacity, and it creates learned helplessness through constant exposure to problems that exceed your sphere of influence. Level 2. Level 2 is social. And this is where it gets grainy. Right? It fractures communities along predetermined fault lines by ensuring every tragedy becomes a tribal identifier. It becomes tribal identification marker, right? Rather than, now get this, rather than a shared human concern, right? And level 3, systemic. Systemic, not systematic, but systemic. It maintains existing power structures by ensuring that populations remain reactive rather than strategic, scattered rather than focused, consuming rather than creating. Now, here's what makes this particularly insidious, right? Traditional terrorism, you know for a fact, you're not a tourist. You know for a fact, you're just an observer. You know you're consuming experiences from a safe distance. But tragedy tourism disguises itself as engagement, awareness, and being informed. Right? It also disguises itself as showing you a point that you actually give a damn about the world. Right? But the algorithm tells you you need this. The algorithm tells you this is important. The algorithm tells you everyone's talking about this, right? And the algorithm is telling you you can't look away. Don't you look away. Right? Don't do it. And because you're a good person with genuine concern for human welfare, you don't look away. You watch and you continuously watch, right? You read, you share, you comment, you feel. And while you're feeling, 3 things are happening simultaneously. Number 1, your emotional resources are being depleted on situations where you have zero agency. Number 2, your attention is being directed away from situations where you have maximum agency. Things such as your family, your business, your community, your mission, right? Your personal life. And number 3, you're being conditioned to accept spectatorship as participation. awareness as action, and consumption as contribution. They've built they've built the Roman Colosseum, and it's in the palm of your hands. They built the Roman Colosseum, and it's in the palm of your hands. You're a spectator to everything they're showing you. The gladiators, the lions, the fights, the grueling matches, the gore, the unaliving. The Roman Colosseum is in the palm of your hands, right? Now, think about that. Think about all of that. Think about how many tragedies you witnessed this morning when you picked up your phone and started to scroll. Think about that. I can tell you first thing this morning when I picked up my phone to begin my marketing for the Final Boss, I scrolled for about 2 minutes and I went across 6 different tragedies, right? All before I had my cup of coffee, right? 6 emotional hits, 6 problems I cannot directly solve, 6 opportunities for the algorithm to measure my engagement to serve me more, right? And by 10 a.m., I had consumed more tragedy than my grandfather consumed in a month. And by noon, more than he witnessed in a year. And here's the question nobody's asking. What am I supposed to do with all of this information? And the answer may surprise you. The answer may surprise you, right? The answer may surprise you. Because the answer the system provides is keep consuming, stay aware, remain engaged, click on to the next one, right? As you sit in your seats in the Roman Colosseum waiting for the next climatic battle to start. The answer doesn't provide. Convert this awareness into specific actions or disengage to protect your resources for battles you can actually win. That's tragedy tourism. And it's the water where we're all swimming in right now. Without even realizing we're in the middle of the ocean and we're drowning. But let me tell you something. Right? I placed the brass tacks here for a specific reason. And here's the brass tacks. Let me get into it. Because everything we've discussed so far anchors in this truth. It anchors in this truth. Stay with me. A population that reacts to everything responds to nothing, right? I'm going to say it again. A population that reacts to everything responds to nothing. The person who controls your attention controls your reality. And the person who controls your reality controls your future. I'm going to read that again, right? I'm going to read that again, right? This is the brass tacks. A population that reacts to everything responds to nothing. The person who controls your attention controls your reality, and the person who controls your reality controls your future, right? A population that reacts to everything responds to nothing. This is psychological warfare 101. If I can keep you constant in reaction mode, you never develop strategic response capacity. You're always fighting fires, never building fire breaks, right? The person who controls your attention controls your reality. Whatever captures your attention defines what you think about, care about, act on, and ultimately become. Your attention isn't just valuable, it's the most valuable resource you possess. More valuable than your time, because you can waste time and recover. Waste attention and you've wasted consciousness itself. The person who controls your reality controls your future. Your future is created by your present actions, which are determined by your current reality, which is shaped by your attention patterns. Control someone's attention and you don't need to control their body. You've controlled their trajectory. This is why authoritarian regimes throughout history have always sought to control information flow, right? How does the Roman Colosseum feel now? Still sitting there watching those gladiator matches? Yeah, you, talking to you. Yeah. This is why modern platform capitalism has evolved into attention capitalism. They've been stealing your attention for ages, keeping you entertained while they work in the shadows, in the blind spots. Right? This is why every major power structure on earth is fighting for control of your cognitive bandwidth. Your attention is the battlefield, and most people don't even realize they're in combat. We'll come back to that principle, right? We'll come back to that in a second, because it's the foundation of everything, right? Now, I love science, and we're going to talk about the science of it. Right? We're going to talk about hard, peer-reviewed, documented science about what happens to your brain when you're exposed to constant tragedy content. This is information that's verifiable, people. This is truth, right? Have you ever heard of the psychic numbing, right? The psychic numbing. The psychic numbing is called the Slovic effect, right? Psychologist Paul Slovic at the University of Oregon spent decades researching what he calls psychic numbing. And here's the core finding. As the number of victims in a tragedy increases, our emotional response doesn't scale up. It actually decreases. One child in danger triggers massive empathetic responses. Your brain lights up. You feel compelled to act. Show people a photograph of a single suffering child and donations pour in. Volunteers mobilize. Knife hand. Action happens. But show the same population statistics about thousands of suffering children, and the response drops dramatically. The brain literally cannot process mass suffering with the same emotional intensity. It processes individual suffering. Slovic call this the collapse of compassion. Your cognitive system gets overwhelmed, and rather than scaling your empathy upward, it shuts down your emotional processing. Right? It shuts it down as a protective mechanism. Now, here's where it gets a little dark. The algorithm knows this. The content distributors know this. That's why your feed is an endless stream of individual tragedies rather than comprehensive context. One disaster, then another, each one hitting that individual emotional trigger, but never allowing you to process the systemic issues creating the tragedies in the first place. Emotional damage, right? Compassion fatigue. They call this the healthcare worker syndrome, right? Originally, compassion fatigue was identified in healthcare workers and first responders, doctors, nurses, EMTs, firefighters, people exposed to constant suffering as part of their profession. Over time, they develop secondary traumatic stress. Their empathy systems literally become exhausted. Some of the symptoms include emotional numbness, decreased ability to feel joy, hypervigilance and anxiety, cynicism and detachment, reduced productivity, and difficulty maintaining relationships. Sound familiar? Right? Sound familiar? Because that's not just describing first responders anymore. That's describing half the population who have a smartphone. The difference is this: healthcare workers are being exposed to suffering they actively engaged in treating. They have agency. They have intervention capabilities. They're exhausted because they're actually doing something, right? On the other hand, you're experiencing the same symptoms from suffering from just observing. You're experiencing vicarious trauma with no agency whatsoever. All the psychological costs, none of the meaningful contribution. The amygdala hijack, right, is a constant threat state. Your amygdala is your brain's threat detection system. When it perceives danger, it triggers your sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, or freeze in place. This is adaptive when facing actual immediate threats. But your amygdala cannot distinguish between direct threats and observed threats. Show it a video of violence and it responds as if you're in danger. Show it news of disaster and it triggers stress hormones as if the danger or the disaster is happening to you. Now, your amygdala is supposed to trigger your response to the threat. The threat resolves. Systems return to their baseline. That's normal. That's a healthy threat response. But what happens when your phone delivers 50 amygdala triggers before lunch, 100 before dinner, 200 before you go to bed? Your nervous system never returns to baseline because you're doing this every single day, 24/7, 365. You're operating in a chronic low-level threat state. You ever look at everyone? Everyone is running with like puffy faces, right? Like, why people's faces are so puffy? Are they dehydrated? What's going on? This may or may not be a symptom of the puffiness you see, but your cortisol levels are definitely elevated, right? Your decision making is definitely impaired. Immune system is definitely suppressed. Cognitive capacity is definitely reduced. This isn't speculation. We have the brain scans. We have the hormone studies. We have the behavioral research, right? Before the pre-digital era, right? Excuse me. A major tragedy might dominate news cycles for weeks, right? That allowed for initial emotional response, information gathering, community processing, grief of anger cycles, and strategic response development, which then gave you collective action to organize. The system had natural pauses built in it. Your nervous system had recovery time. Now, you get 48 hours maximum before the next crisis pushes the current one out of your feed. And you have to recognize the pattern. You have to recognize the pattern. You never complete the emotional cycle. You're interrupted mid-processing to react to the next thing, which will be interrupted to react to the next thing. And it continues indefinitely. Understand the patterns. This creates what neuroscientists call emotional whiplash. Your system is constantly starting responses it never completes. Every emotional process left unfinished creates residual stress that accumulates. All right. And here's what I've learned from different briefings that I've been involved in. Right. And then we're talking about information warfare. An overwhelmed nervous system is a controllable nervous system. A population in constant fight or flight doesn't think strategically. They react desperately. They become predictable. They make poor decisions. They can be easily herded through manufactured crisis. This is a conspiracy theory, people. Conspiracy theory, people. This is documented psychological operation methodology. And it's not being deployed by some shadowy cabal. It's being deployed by profit-seeking algorithms that accidentally discovered the same principles military psyops units developed intentionally. The result is the same. A population that's neurologically compromised, emotionally exhausted, and strategically paralyzed. That's the science. That's what's happening to your brain. And understanding the mechanism is the first step to defending against it. Now, let's break down the three-part framework that gives tonight's episode its title, Distract, Divide, and Conquer. Starting with distract, because everything else depends on capturing and holding your attention. The attention economy warfare, right? Herbert Simon, Nobel Peace Prize winning economist, said in 1971, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention, right? That was written before smartphones, before social media, before algorithmic content distribution, before tragedy became the primary currency of engagement. Simon understood something critical. Attention is zero sum. Every moment you spend focused on one thing is a moment unavailable for anything else. And in the world of infinite content competing for infinite or finite attention, whoever can most effectively capture attention wins. Do you see the efficacy of it all? Do you see the efficacy of it all, right? Now, here's the strategic question. Win what? Win what? For platforms, they win advertising revenue. Higher engagement means higher valuations. They're incentivized to maximize time on platform by any means necessary. And the research is conclusive. Negative emotional content, especially tragedy and threat, generates more engagement than positive content. For power structures, they win compliance. A distracted population isn't organizing, it's strategizing. It's not strategizing. I apologize. It isn't building, right? It isn't threatening existing hierarchies. For you, yes. You lose. You lose. You lose time. You lose energy. You lose focus. You lose agency. Where are they keeping you distracted from? Right? Let me be specific about what tragedy tourism distracts you from. Right? Number one, building whatever you decide to build and do with your life. You're distracted. You can't do it. Number two, it pulls you away from family. All your family sitting at the dinner table with their phones in their hands. Or when it's time for have family time, everybody has their phone out. Nobody is saying anything, right? Right. And number three, whatever you are trying to master is taken away from you. You can't master anything because you're too distracted. Right? And number four, organizing your community on issues that of concern. And number five, training your body and your mind. I watched a video this morning where someone was recording in a gym and nobody was working out. Everybody was on their damn phone, sitting up like this. No one was working out. People either taking pictures or they were on the phone. No one was working out, right? Listen, in military operations, when you want to move forces without enemy interference, you create a diversion. You make noise over here, right? To draw attention away from your actual objective over there. We just witnessed that. That just happened to Venezuela, right? You make noise over here to distract and draw attention away from your actual objective that's over there, right? The explosion isn't the main attack. The explosion is covering the main attack. Same principle applies to information warfare. The constant stream of tragedy isn't primarily about informing you. It's about occupying you and your attention. Keeping your attention mixed on spectacle while you're in the Roman Colosseum enjoying your entertainment. While structural changes happen in spaces you're not watching. I'm not saying every tragedy is fake. I'm not saying nothing matters. And this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm saying that your constant consumption of tragedy serves interests that aren't yours, and those interests benefit from your distraction. That's what I'm saying. Right? Now, let's talk about the divide. Let's talk about the divide. Moving from distract to divide. Because once your attention is captured, the next step is ensuring you're fighting each other instead of examining the system. I'm going to say that again. We're moving from distract to divide. Because once your attention is captured, the next step is ensuring you're fighting each other instead of examining the system. All this talk of civil war, anarchy, fighting amongst each other, poor versus poor. Imagine that. The tribal sorting algorithm shows that every tragedy that enters your feed comes with predetermined tribal markers attached. Before you even finish reading the headline, the algorithm has already sorted into categories designed to trigger identification or opposition based on your profile data. And here's how it works. If a hurricane hits, a shooting happens, a political scandal breaks, a humanitarian crisis develops, an economic downturn begins. It's a pattern. Weather, shooting, politics, humane crisis, economic downturn. What are we getting ready to go through? Government shutdown. We're getting ready to go back into the economic downturn. What just happened? The crisis in Minnesota, right? What political scandal did we just witness? The e-files, right? What shooting just happened? We just saw that. All of us. And the weather is always the restart, right? Immediate tribal framing. Now, within hours, sometimes minutes, the tragedy gets wrapped in tribal language. Is this a red state or blue state? Take notes. Take notes. I'm going to say that again. Within hours, sometimes minutes, the tragedy gets wrapped in tribal language. Is it a red state or blue state? Is this a red state or blue state issue? Does this support narrative A or narrative B? Which demographic is affected? Who can be blamed? What existing grievance does this validate? The algorithm then ensures you see versions of the tragedy that align with your existing tribal affiliations, while making sure the other side sees versions that align with theirs. Not because there's a conspiracy, because engagement algorithms have learned that confirming bias generates more interaction than challenging it. For entertainment purposes only, right? Within 24 hours, you should be able, you should be a shared, within 24 hours, let me say this again. Within 24 hours, what should be a shared human experience concern has fractured into tribal warfare. People aren't unified in addressing the tragedy. They're divided in arguing about it. Oh, that was justified. No, it wasn't. That was an unaliving. People are arguing about that, right? This is a principle I learned in the military, right? The enemy wants you fighting each other instead of recognizing the common threat. It's basic divide and conquer strategy, documented back to Roman military doctrine. How does the popcorn taste? Are you feeling comfortable in your Roman Colosseum? Julius Caesar didn't defeat Gaul through superior force alone. He defeated Gaul by ensuring Gallic tribes fought each other while he picked them off one by one. The Gauls had the numbers, they had the terrain advantage, they had everything except unity. And if you haven't seen that movie, Leaving the World Behind, Leaving the World Behind is a documentary, in my opinion, right? We're in the last stages of what is happening in that movie. If you broke that movie up into different stages, right? Attacking each other. But it's a cycle and it's on repeat. Does that sound familiar? The American population, we have the numbers. We have the resources. We have the capability. What we lack is unity. And tragedy tourism ensures we stay fractured. There's specific fractured lines, right? Let me detail exactly how every major tragedy gets sorted. The first is political fracture, left versus right, liberal versus conservative, Democrat versus Republican, progressive versus traditional. Every tragedy immediately becomes ammunition in an existing political war. Gun violence becomes a Second Amendment debate before victims are counted. Natural disasters become climate change debates before rescue operations. Complete economic downturns become capitalism versus socialism debates before people are fed. The tragedy itself becomes secondary to the tribal positioning around it, right? The next one, racial fracture, right? Every tragedy involving race becomes about race relations rather than the specific incident. Pattern recognition becomes tribal identification. Legitimate concerns get weaponized into team sports. Actual victims become symbolic pawns. And then you have the generational fracture. Boomers versus millennials versus Gen X versus Gen Z versus Gen Y versus Gen Alien versus all of it. Back in the day, right? Back in the day, versus the boomers back in the day. That's what we used to hear, right? Every tragedy becomes evidence of generational moral failure. Wisdom and innovation both get dismissed through age-based tribal sorting. There's another one, a geographic fracture. Urban versus rural, coastal versus heartland, north versus south. Different region tragedies receive different empathy levels based on tribal affiliation, right? And then there's the religious fracture. Secular versus religious. People talking about a dress. People are talking about a dress, man. Oh, man. Y'all. We're cooked. We're cooked. Y'all, we're talking about a damn dress. Secular versus religious, different faith traditions positioned as competitive rather than complementary. Every tragedy becomes evidence for or against someone's worldview. And the strategic purpose. Here's why division serves power structures, right? Unified communities can mobilize massive resources rapidly. They can demand change. They can create alternatives. They're dangerous to status quo power. Divided communities spend their energy arguing with each other. They can't coordinate action because they can't agree on a diagnosis of the problem. Every attempt at collective response fractures along existing fault lines, right? Divided populations are predictable. When people sort out into tribes, their responses become algorithmic. You can predict with high accuracy how someone will respond to any tragedy based on their tribal affiliation. Predictable populations are controllable populations. You know which buttons to push to generate what response you're after, right? When communities are fighting each other over each tragedy, right? Over each tragedy of whatever tragedy deserves attention, which crisis is more important, which victim deserves empathy, they're not asking why there are so many tragedies to choose from in the first place. They're fighting over distribution of sympathy rather than examining systems of causation, right? And there's a personal cost. I'm going to go over, so don't worry about it. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. I'm going over. They're fighting over distribution. Now, let me bring this to your life. How many relationships have been damaged because of arguments about tragedies neither one of you were directly impacted by? How many family dinners were ruined? How many friendships fractured? How many Thanksgiving gatherings turned into verbal combat zones over something that had nothing to do with either party? You're not arguing about tragedy. You're identifying team membership. The tragedy is just the current battleground for pre-existing tribal warfare. And while you're fighting about tragedy, right, you're not building together, not creating together, not solving actual problems together, right? Frederick Douglass, who understood power dynamics better than most, said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. But demands require unity, organized, strategic, sustained unity." Throughout American history, every time oppressed or marginalized groups unified across artificial dividing lines, power structures responded by finding new ways to divide them. Not through force primarily, but through a narrative, through creating new tribal identifications with superseded common interests. Same playbook, people. New technology, more sophisticated delivery. This is the mechanism. Strategy terrorism doesn't just distract you. It ensures that even when you're paying attention, you're paying it in ways that keep you divided, predictable, and manageable. United communities are dangerous. Divided ones are profitable. The algorithm has chosen profitability. The question is, what have you chosen? Now, let's talk about conquer. We talked about divide, right? We talked about the other two elements. We talked about distract. Now it's time to talk about the conquer. This is the end game of distract and divide. Because once attention is captured and communities are fractured, the conquest is almost complete. When I say conquer, I'm not talking about a military occupation. I'm talking about strategic subjugation, the capture of agency, the conversion of active citizens into passive subjects, the transformation of creators into consumers, the reduction of humans into data points whose behavior can be predicted, influenced, and monetized. This is conquest through psychology, not force. And it's more effective precisely because more people don't recognize it as a conquest, right? And let me give you the four markers, right? The first one, people recognize and accept that they're a spectator. They accept that. They confuse awareness with action. They normalize conditions they would have revolted against if introduced suddenly. They exhaust their resources on reactive responses rather than strategic action, right? Now, in ace, an asymmetric warfare, you don't need to destroy the enemy's forces. You just need to ensure they waste their resources responding to decoys while you accomplish your actual objectives. Tragedy terrorism is the decoy system. Your resources get expended responding to endless crisis, while the actual structural changes happen in spaces where you're not monitoring because you're too exhausted from all the responding, right? And final bosses, warriors, motivators, and smarts. This is where you recognize what's the patterns. And here's what separates final bosses from regular players, right? Final bosses recognize conquest attempts and refuse the conditions. You see the game being played, you understand the objectives, you recognize when your resources are being extracted under the guise of concern, awareness, and keeping you informed. And you say no, full stop, right? Not no to caring, not no to legitimate human suffering, not no to being informed about things that matter, but no to the system that wants to convert your caring into currency, your awareness into engagement, right? And your humanity into data points. The conquest is only complete if you accept it. If you recognize it, you can refuse it. And refusal is the first step toward reclamation of your agency. That's what we're building toward tonight. Not heartlessness, but strategic heart deployment. Not ignorance, but focused intelligence. Not apathy, but calibrated compassion that preserves your resources for battle you can actually win. Conquered people react. Free people create. Which one are you choosing to be? Right? Now let's get personal. Right? Let's get personal. Let's talk about how to recognize when tragedy tourism, has infiltrated your own life. Because awareness of the macro pattern means nothing if you can't identify the micro systems. Symptom number one, anxiety without agency, right? Symptom number two, global awareness, but you have local ignorance. Number three, predictable emotional responses, right? Number four, outrage fatigue. Number five, conversation regurgitating and recycling, right? That's a big one. Number six, consumption as contribution. And number seven, exhaustion without accomplishment, right? All these things. Remember, recognition is the first step. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. You can't change patterns you don't see. You have to recognize and see the patterns. But now you see them, and seeing them changes everything, right? Look, we spent the first half of this episode on diagnosis. Now let's shift to defense, right? Let's shift to defense. Let's talk about the core principle. The core principle is stop trying to care about everything. The human heart wasn't designed for global scale empathy, right? Let's talk about military ops. In military ops, you don't engage every target. You identify the mission that's critical, that's the critical objective, and you concentrate your forces there. Attempting to engage on every front line simultaneously is how you lose wars, right? And selection, right? You have to ask yourself, does this issue connect with your core values? Now, what you've been told to, not what you've been told to care about, not what's trending, but what actually matters to you based on your life experience, your worldview, your moral framework, right? And resource availability. Do you have the resources that can actually make a difference? Do you have the time, the money, the expertise, the connections, the platform, the influence? Can you willfully, meaningfully contribute to these issues, right? Can you? That's what you have to ask yourself. And do you have a sphere of influence? Can you actually impact the issue? Or is it outside of your sphere of influence? All right. It's strategic realism, people. And implementation protocol. Right? You have to learn these issues that I just mentioned. You have to learn all these things, man. Ask yourself these questions. Let this be a part of your critical thinking processes, right? This is what you need to do. Stop getting wrapped up in the doom scrolling, right? Stop getting wrapped up in the doom scrolling, man. The Roman Colosseum feels amazing. The gore, the fights, the blood, the bath, the unaliving. You're enjoying it, right? Right? I didn't think so. I didn't think so. Now you understand exactly what it is. You're not enjoying it as much. I know you're not, right? And listen, the next thing I wanted to discuss is the 6 pillars of success, right? 6 pillars of success, which you can find in Go Time all aboard the Fired Up train. But we're going to talk about the 6 pillars of application, which are the 6 pillars of success that are being applied, right? Because this framework, the 6 pillars framework that is in Go Time, that's motivation, um, sacrifice, consistency, perseverance, persistence, and um, dang it, what was the last one? I've been going over so long. Oh man, resilience, man, resilience. I couldn't. Oh boy, Whew. Mm, it happens. Sometimes it just happens, man. You look when you put yourself up here on this platform and you're talking on a points for hours or hour at a time. Sometimes information fleets. Sometimes it does, right? But we're talking about these foundational principles, right? The first pillar, motivation. When it comes to tragedy tourism drains your motivation energy by creating constant emotional depletion. Protecting your emotional means protecting your motivation, right? Your motivation isn't infinite. Treat it like the precious fuel it is. Don't waste it on vicarious trauma from situations you can't impact. Pillar number 2, sacrifice. Sacrifice. Sacrifice is here. Sacrifice is here, right? Sacrifice is counterintuitive. You must sacrifice the illusion of needing to care about everything in order to genuinely impact something. Sacrifice false engagement for authentic contribution. Sacrifice broad awareness for deep expertise. Sacrifice the appearance of being informed for the reality of being effective. And pillar number 3, consistency. Implement these strategies consistently, not reactively. Strategic ignorance isn't something you do when overwhelmed. It's your daily operating protocol. 24-hour action conversion isn't occasional. It's how you process every emotional trigger, right? Consistency in these practices builds the defensive fortifications that protect your cognitive territory, right? 6 pillars of success. And pillar number 4, perseverance. You will face social pressure to abandon these strategies. People will call you uninformed, uncaring, privileged, and selfish. Preserve anyway. Your mission doesn't require their approval. Your empire doesn't need their validation. Preserve in guarding your attention despite cultural pressure to scatter it. And pillar number 5, persistence. This isn't a one-time fix. The attention extraction machinery is persistent in its attempts to recapture you. Algorithms evolve, new platforms emerge, new crises develop. You must be equally persistent in defending your cognitive sovereignty, daily practices, constant vigilance, and ongoing commitment. And pillar number 6, resilience, the one I had problems with a few seconds ago. Build resilience against emotional manipulation by developing the capacity to witness suffering without being paralyzed by it. Calibrated compassion, strategic empathy, honest assessment of your sphere of influence. Resilience means you can acknowledge tragedy without centering your life around consuming it. These pillars aren't separate from tonight's discussion. They're the foundation that makes these strategies sustainable. And you see how I applied the 6 pillars of success. I applied the 6 pillars of success to this very topic, right? Now, to my final bosses, to my warriors, thank you for that, guys. To my final bosses, to my warriors, to my motivators, to my smarts. We're in the final segment. We're almost done. Don't go nowhere. Let me bring this home. Stay with us. All right? Of course, I have call to actions, right? Of course, I have call to actions for the next 7 days. I need you guys to start auditing your consumption. Implement selective ignorance. And then have action conversion. For choosing focus areas, take one concentrate action. Don't share it. Don't comment on it. Just allow it to be an actionable material. And hold it in a place of reference to see if there's actual impact. If it does have actual impact, donate money, volunteer time, organize effort, help build solutions. Then after that, you document your experience, share what you've learned, help others in the community break free, right? Because empire builders build on truth. They build on truth. And let me close with this truth. Speaking of truth, right? To my final bosses, my smarts, my motivators, and my warriors. The world has real problems. Genuine suffering exists. Evil circulates. And I'm not denying any of that. What I'm saying is your awareness of distant tragedy without capacity of intervention doesn't help the victims. It only exhausts you. And an exhausted you serves no one. The most compassionate thing you can do, the most revolutionary thing you can do is become powerful enough to actually create change. And you cannot become powerful if your energy is scattered across 100 tragedies. You're powerless to impact. You need to learn how to be a sniper and focus your fire. Choose your battles. Protect your peace. Build your empire. Because the world doesn't need more aware spectators. The Colosseum doesn't need any more spectators. It needs more capable builders, more strategic leaders, more emotionally calibrated warriors who protected their resources for battles that actually matter. Stop touring tragedy. Start creating victory, right? Your family needs your focus. Your business needs you strategic. Your community needs you resource. Your mission needs you powerful. None of that happens while you're consuming suffering you can't elevate. And here's the final word, right? From chess piece to chess master, that's always been the mission. Tragedy tourism wants you as a chess piece, moved by forces you don't understand, serving purposes you didn't choose, reacted to stimuli and engineered to control you. These tragedies make you the chess master, deliberate and focused, strategic and deployment, sovereign and action allocation. The system needs you overwhelmed. It needs you to be reactive. It needs you distracted. It needs you divided and conquered. You refuse to participate isn't selfish. It's revolutionary. This is the Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss. I am your architect of insight, right? Until next Sunday. Protect your attention. Focus your energy. Build your empire. Stay dangerous. This is our show for tonight, man. This has been episode number 168. I appreciate each and every last single one of you. Make sure you guys go get up Go Time. Go get Go Time, man. All aboard the Fired Up train. It contains the 6 pillars of success. It contains understanding your why, discovering your why. Right. It contains the cornerstone of magnificence. It contains the momentum code. Right. These principles developed inside of Go Time, all aboard the Fired Up train. Go get it. And our weekly schedule, for those who don't know, Mondays. We're going to start with Monday. Monday is Motivation Monday. I see you guys again tomorrow on Monday at 9 p.m., right? This is where empire builders build, right? On Tuesday, we discussed the latest and greatest on tech, AI consciousness, man. This is what we talk about, AI tech, man. This is me and the SME, the sensei, Mike Falk, right? Wednesday, Merger Wednesday, right? The merge, right? We talk about the convergence, things to come, humankind, AI kind. And then Thursdays, special guest Thursdays. And then again on Sundays, Sitting Down Sundays with the architect of insight. This has been episode number 168, man. I appreciate each and every last single one of you. And if this marinates in you, if this resonates with you, please allow it to marinate in your spine. And remember, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but the pain of regret is even heavier. We are here. I am here. And to all of you around the world, no matter where you're watching from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. That is our show. Y'all having a great time. I will see you again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for Motivation Monday, where we follow the fired up what? The fired up train, baby. Y'all have a good night. Talk to you soon. Good night.